So Naira for sure is out of town. I believe that both Gina and Jaron did tell me at one point that they could and would be here. So let me just count up everybody real quick. So currently we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people on the council. That means we need 5 for quorum, and we have 4 here presently. So should Sherry be able to make it in the next 10 minutes, we will be in a position to make a decision or two tonight as appropriate. So anyway, we don't yet have quorum, but that needn't prevent us from getting started on our agenda, since we're beginning with some updates and conversation. So the very first thing that we need to do officially is approve the agenda itself. Everybody should have received that by email. We don't have paper copies today. I apologize for that. So hopefully everybody had a chance to look over it. If you don't have it in front of you, we'll do public comment as usual and then proceed on to new business. We're gonna hopefully get an update on applications to join the council. We've got a couple of those that are outstanding. We're gonna be talking with Scott and Paul from the water plant. And then we'll be getting an update on school hydration station monitoring before moving on to the EPA Region 5 Facilitation Assistance Offer. So that's the gist of the agenda. Anybody have any additions to or amendments of the agenda? Hearing none, agenda is approved by consensus. We do usually open things up formally for public comment if anyone wants to make formal public comment. We also tend to just open things up informally as we go along to anybody who wants to chime in on anything we're talking about. But if anybody would like to deliver formal public comment, now is the time. Not seeing anybody, we will move on then to our new business. So as I said, we currently have 9 official members of the Water System Advisory Council. We've also got some friends of the council, if I can put it that way, like Peterson, who have been involved over our last several meetings at least, and have been made really great contributions to our discussions and intend to stay involved. So I want to officially recognize Peterson and others who've been involved in that way up to this point. And then we have a couple of people who have actually formally submitted letters of interest, hoping to join the council. And I've done whatever I can to forward those to the appropriate people and try to get those acted upon. So Carol is one of the 2 people waiting to hear back, and Dick Sadler, who again can't be here tonight, is the other of those people. So Faith, I don't know if you have any kind of an update for us on that front, but maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, the mayor called, he asked my opinion, and I said, well, it goes to you. And he's like, well, what do you think in terms of the membership of the council? And I said, I would like to see something like deliberate efforts to make sure that the council reflects the makeup and demographic of the community, because it feels like it's very heavy in terms of academics. I mean, if you look at the community, the percentage of people on the council that have terminal degrees is much higher than in the general community. And I understand that we want people with expertise, but I think it would also be good if it reflected the makeup of the community. So I'm willing to have a discussion about that more, but the mayor said to go ahead and bring that to the council.
Okay, so he has not taken a position on these specific applicants?
No, but I mean, in terms of I would like to see recruitment done in a way that is trying to bring more diversity to the council in an intentional way, and to think about that. I went to a board training once, and they had like a worksheet that you could use to sort of get an idea of what what representation was on the council and who you would like to see represented, and I think there's value in doing that, but also it's not. I'm just telling you, the mayor said that, and I'm sharing my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say is that, first of all, you're totally right that the council as currently constituted is heavy on the academics. I think part of what makes that so obvious is that we don't always have participation from everybody who's technically on the council. I think if we could get everybody here, to every meeting, then certainly, that would help. We've also, of course, had a couple people roll off of the council, and it has been difficult to get others to roll on. Not that we have made, a super concerted effort to do that. We certainly could be better about recruitment, and I'd be very interested to hear thoughts from fellow council members on what that might look like. I mean, the other thing I'll just add really quick though is that while I think that is a very worthy objective, I don't know if it's enough justification to prevent people who have currently expressed interest from joining up ASAP, since we do need enthusiastic council members who are committed to being here consistently. And I think we have at least a couple people who fall into that category. And given that we're always kind of right on the edge of quorum, it would be really helpful to at least have, a couple more people who are committed to the work. So, in relatively short order, if we're going to be a functional body. So that's all that I would add. Does anybody else have any thoughts about that issue? Or how is the mayor looking for a response from us then, or what? Is he thinking that the ball is in our court, or
your court,
or your court? Or, yeah.
Yeah, I think he was saying that he's allowing me to share my opinion, and I have heard your feedback, and I can bring that to him in terms of like what I'm hearing is that you want to get these people on so at least you can have quorum at meetings, because you can't make any formal decisions because so many people aren't showing up, and then you can't remove people from council because you don't have a quorum. So maybe get people who are interested on, but also maybe if we could come up with some kind of recruitment strategy to bring to the next meeting to share with everyone, you and I could maybe work on that together.
What do folks, is that a possibility?
Might I also suggest that the responsibility is shared with the mayor, and he should be able to find one or two people who can represent. And I tremble when I say this. There may be a city council member who knows people from their ward. So it's a shared responsibility, and it will be a challenge. Because being on another board, finding users of our services is real challenging. And I hope we at least get partial credit for living in Flint, even though we make what they call terminal degree.
Well, and I will point out that one of our two current applicants, does not have is not an academic and does not have a terminal degree. So if that's a concern, then at least in one out of those two cases, then it seems like we can proceed.
I'm a senior. I'm 73. That adds diversity to the base.
That's two seniors.
And I'll reach out. I'm in the 5th ward. I'll reach out to my council member and ask her about that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We could also maybe write, like make a formal ask to the mayor and the council members for suggestions or people they know. Is that's we could do that, or we could attempt to do that.
Sure.
Great.
But yeah, so certainly Faith, you and I can follow up about that, if everybody's okay with that, if Faith and I were to work on that a little bit and then bring something to the council next time. We discuss it in a public setting.
Thank you.
I'm gonna move down a little, after your word of it.
And can we just record Gina Smith's presence? Thank you.
Got it.
All right, great, which also brings us to quorum, which is great. So
Yay.
we'll be in a position to do some business later on. Is there anything else to say about the recruitment or application issue?
I can only guess. I imagine we have to go through the open meetings act, depending on who's doing the recruiting and what's said. But you've been through that torture, that experience.
Well, and actually, I just want to officially welcome Athena. Thanks for being here. And this issue may be of interest to you because I feel like it's something you might actually be able to help us out with a little bit. We were just talking about the need to diversify the council a little bit more because we've got a lot of academics in particular in the council. Ideally, it would be more representative of a cross section of the community. And we're looking for any ideas that people have about how to reach out to people in a way that gets other folks interested in the work that the council is doing and potentially willing to commit to being part of that work. So, our conversation we're having about that tonight is pretty preliminary. So what we just decided was that next time we'll have a look together at some kind of more formal proposal around how to approach that recruitment issue. But any ideas that anybody wants to contribute to that in the
May I ask you, I know we had talked good afternoon, everyone. We had talked in the communication group about those who had applied.
Yeah, so we just got an update from Faith on that. We have two people who have currently applied, including Carol here, and the mayor is still considering whether or not to advance those applications. And the concern, and he was asking Faith for her thoughts about that, and the concern that Faith expressed was this concern about the just how representative the council is of the community, and just ensuring that we get enough diversity onto the council. So it sounds like we're thinking about an approach here that would allow us to move forward with the applications that are there, but also to combine that with a broader kind of outreach effort of some kind.
Yes.
So that's something to follow up on next time around.
And I've never been called an academic in my life.
I'm sorry, I don't want to insult you.
I've been in trade school.
I'm lumping you in with the academic.
Hey Ben,
Yeah.
just a thought, also, I don't know like what the time period is for those who are on the council, and so it might be nice to have a list of
Yes.
whose term ends when, and kind of put that one.
And we never officially decided whose term ends
Okay.
when. That was kind of,
Okay.
that's another ball that was kind of put in our court, and we never quite pinned that down. So that would be another, I think, worthy thing to come back to next time.
Okay.
But if there are no further thoughts about this, we do have a number of other things to get to tonight. So without objection, I will move on to discussion with our friends from the Water Department here, Scott and Paul, joining us for the first time tonight. Welcome, Paul. So we usually start with any updates that might be of interest to the council, and then if the council has any questions, just kind of have a bit of discussion here, if that's all right.
Well, with the water plant itself, the latest project was the water tower. They've been taking out of service for the last 4 months. It's completely finished now. It's been brought up to all of the new standards that EPA and EGLE has set forth. We had to do a couple changes on the drains and overflows to bring it up to standards. There has been a little bit of talk out in the community that, why did we spend so much money, why did we do it, but, I do have pictures here that show, the integrity that's inside the tank, there was metal falling off, there was holes in the roof, it was bad. It was to the point where things were gonna start to infiltrate into the tank, and had an old drain system with no screens, an old overflow system with no screens, it wasn't required back in the fifties when they built it. And all of that, about birds, debris, and anything in there, so, and that will taint your water. So, it was a health issue too, but it's done, it's completed, it's back in service for, 3-4 weeks now.
So is the, and so is it back to the 5%, right, 5%
Yes.
then?
Yes, we never left that,
Okay.
that scenario.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
And I know one of the concerns that was brought up prior to beginning that project was around water pressure and the possibility of
Yes.
water main breaks. I know that might be a sensitive subject, but and we did see some breaks during that period of time when we had taken the tower offline. And so I'm just wondering what might have been learned from that. Was that related to the tower being taken off?
moved
Where do we
a long
stand
way.
now?
We moved a long way from the last time we took it out of service compared to this time. So this time when we took it out of service, within the first 3 days, we had, maybe 5 breaks, 6 breaks?
Yeah, about that.
But once we got it under control, it did pretty good. We didn't have any, we had one boil water nose at that time.
Yeah,
That
that
one
was
large break towards the end of it.
Do you know what date that was?
Not right offhand, I'd have to look that up. That was about a month ago.
But that was the citywide
2 months ago.
boil water.
Yes.
notice
Oh, I
that
see.
went out. And do you feel confident saying that that was indeed related to taking the tower offline, or that
It contributed.
contributing?
So prior to taking that tower out of service, we knew in the past, when we take it out, that is a pressure, it's designed to control pressure. And once you take that out, it's real hard to control that pressure. It can spike or drop out right now without that tower. So we knew this prior, so we did require this company to give us a bunch of these pressure relief devices. So if it did spike high, they would open up and try to relieve the pressure. They're limited to how many, we had like a dozen of them, 12, 13 of them out there. We bought 6, they gave us 6 or 7. So, that did help the system. I truly believe that.
Made a big difference, actually. I was here in 08 when that tower was out of service, so it made a huge difference.
I had a question, from a resident that asked me, about 2 weeks ago, they said that the chlorine in the southwest part of Flint was too high, they could smell it. Is there a change that happened with that?
Not that I know of.
Is that?
You're starting to cool down a little bit. Chlorine residuals are starting to climb up a little bit. When it's warmer, they do have a tendency to drop a little bit. But now that the weather's starting to get cooler, it has come up.
But there was no active
there was
change in
no.
chlorine dosing?
No, we maintain 1.7 parts per million leaving the plant all the time. And that's so it's, all the way at the farthest extreme of the distribution system, we still have a good chlorine residual. Because the farther away from the plant, it slowly drops when it's in that
Right.
plumbing in the system. We still have an oversized system compared to the population, so.
What's your lowest in your monitored location?
I mean, just off the top of my head recently, like a 0.6, 0.7 in there. I mean, I'd have to look at it to see exactly, but anything below that, they usually the lab will start telling us. And then I'll reach out to Paul and say, hey, I got a certain area that's kind of starting to drift down, we need some flushing, and he'll, start flushing, and then he calls about that, and why these hydrants open, and stuff of that nature, but we try to maintain that.
Do you find people confuse what happens in Clio and Burton with what happens in Flint? Or it's Flint's fault, even though it's our Flint system?
Yeah, and then we've even had phone calls, about it. Hey, is that my water? You guys caught it? No. Well, where you at? Burton? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Once I can say it's not our problem. Sorry.
Scott, I have the dates for that boil water advisory. It was July 9th, Sunday, July 9th, and then it was lifted the 11th.
Middle of July.
It was lifted when?
July 11th.
Speaking of chlorine residuals, so I'm on a working group under EPA right now that is probably going to propose in the near future that there be some kind of mandatory minimum for chlorine residuals. And I'm just wondering we wouldn't be recommending any particular number for that, we'd be recommending a range, and then, you know, the technical experts would pin down what exactly that number would be, but it's possible that that could be a pretty big change in the coming months, years, depending on when all of that gets implemented. I'm just wondering, you know, how you think that would affect the work that you do, and you know, what it might change as far as how you both do the treatment and then monitor for the residual.
It's not gonna change our treatment or process, it's gonna affect the distribution. How are you gonna take care of these spots that are inherently have issues? You know, you have a system that was started to be built in, what's the oldest part of the distribution?
Early 1900s. So, yeah, remember the system was designed for 200,000 plus. We're at 83,000 approximate. You have, obviously, the water crisis didn't help us none. The high rates, that changed water usage. A lot of people used to have lawn accounts. So that helped with the flow in the system and keep things moving, especially during the summer and the warm months. We don't have that. Actually, we are removing a lot of lawn meters out of houses because people don't want to pay for that, even though it is a water only account, so you're not being charged the sewer rate, so it's cheaper. It's actually cheaper, but, so if you are somebody that waters your lawn, then it'd be advantageous. And to your advantage to have one installed, so that way you only get a bill for the water, minus the sewer charges, but, so you don't have all that movement usage like you used to. So that kind of plays in the, you know, retention time.
Do you have a rough estimate of how many lawn accounts there are?
I don't know offhand. I remember when I first started in this department in the mid-90s, we were installing them all the time. And now we're removing them quite frequently.
In my house, yes, and do not get an underground water line break, because it can get $1,000 if you don't know what the problem is.
You know, and this was a big shop town, you know, and back in those days, they had big mains that fed a lot of them, the shops and, you know, big mains. And now the shops are gone, and what little shops are here don't use the same amount of water, you know, with regulations and all that, you know, dictating what goes down the drains nowadays. They've cut back their water consumption dramatically, and then, you know, all of that is kind of, but underground, the plumbing's still that way now. We've been slowly replacing them, but it costs a lot of money. So to hit some of them affected areas, right now we have at least 35 automatic flushers that are in areas that we know inherently have problems like that. So we have to keep the water moving. We've added stuff to try to keep moving, but shy of replacing the water main, downsizing it and all that, and that's millions. You know.
So, do you know how many, monitoring locations do you have throughout the city right now? I think they have 8 or something.
Yes.
That's right.
Well, we also have a throughout the city.
I would assume it's the same number that has come out of after the water crisis, the EPA helped determine new locations, is that the same?
Yes, everything's the same.
Everything's the same, okay.
We've
You mean
maintained.
the state after the crisis, or they moved
After
it,
the
they
crisis,
moved it, right?
yeah.
Well, a part of the crisis was to evaluate the system and come up with some money, and that was the first thing that they paid for, was these water quality monitoring panels that were stationed throughout, you know, various locations in the city. And then we have a couple, pumping reservoirs that we have them stations there too, so.
Do you have a list of what's monitored at those panels? Is that, some of that's online, some of that's graph, or is it all?
None of it's online, we don't allow anybody to see it.
Okay.
You know, due to all the internet and the hacking and stuff goes, we
I
keep that
see.
internally within a closed network
So
system.
you're monitoring a panel, meaning a panel of constituents that you measure, not a panel as in a monitor that sits on.
I see what you
understand
mean.
now.
Okay.
We're
No,
talking
so
about
what we do is we document that all, every day on spreadsheets. It gets every weekly, it gets emailed to, Eagle, and Eagle goes through it, and they
Yeah.
monitor it, daily. Actually, daily, we have a daily report that we send out too.
So that's chlorine.
Everything. Everything. I mean, I hate to say it, but everything goes to Eagle pretty much daily, and then once a week, all of the numbers go, and they look at everything. And then there's a monthly report that's created that gets emailed to EPA and
Yeah, I just think it might be nice for our record to just, what are those constituents, so that we know what's being monitored.
Well, and, sorry.
Yeah, that's all.
I didn't interrupt you, but, so the EPA has also proposed some standards for PFAS in drinking water that have attracted a lot of attention and concern, I know, within the water world, because there are a lot of utilities that are worried that the cost of installing the necessary equipment to, filter for PFAS, is going to be prohibitive. I'm just wondering what your perspective is on that. What would it take at our water treatment
Well, as
plants?
of right now, we have no PFAS. Where we get our water has no PFAS. Galila has done studies on it, and there was no PFAS out of the purchased water that we buy. So as of right now, we're okay on it. Now, I can't guarantee 100% that that's not gonna affect our water rates, because Galila is a conglomerate of multiple, entities that came together. And if they have 4 or 5 water plants, and if any of them water plants have PFAS in them and they have to deal with it, the cost will be spread amongst everybody, so.
It will be on the sludge side on the wastewater, I think is perhaps, is certainly where it concentrates. So I know there's interest in making sure we know what's coming in drinking water. It's the sludge that produced the wastewater plants where the PFAS is going to tend to come back. Yeah, and I don't know what the story is with regard to.
Oh, it's hammered.
Yeah.
I don't know about PFAS, that might be something else.
But I don't know where the sludge goes either. But it's not in the community, it goes off somewhere, but.
Like I said, we don't have any PFAS coming at us, we're good at, both of our water sources, there's.
But so you're monitoring regularly though for PFAS or not?
Well, we don't monitor it regularly, that's an unknown still, so they just come out with that in the UCM 5, which is a random testing for unknown. And this time, they picked 25 different types of PFAS,
So you do a one-time test based on?
Yes. Every 5
Yeah, I don't
years.
think it's routine.
No.
But then I recall in 2016, Governor Snyder was under the gun. We had folks coming from Amsterdam and Japan and suggesting that the entire system needed to be rebuilt because they actually had experience post-World War II. What do the water guys think of the possibility of that happening in the next century?
I won't be here.
Same here.
The challenge in that, like, whatever your design life is of your system, you're gonna have to replace it every 50, 75, whatever that is, right? So I'm just wondering about what the annual maintenance budget or replacement budget is right now
Well,
on an annual basis.
You gotta understand, when any community gets into financial distress, what's the first thing they cut?
Oh, I get that.
In planning for that, so I really don't know what it would take right now to, collectively save money to prepare for capital improvements.
Right.
That's what you want to know, right? How much money is set aside in the budget yearly?
I'm interested in knowing, I suspect we are well short of that. I'm interested in knowing where we're at, so that we can help you maybe argue to close that gap. I don't know, unless you've got that number, and you know what that needs to be, I'd love that too, but I
That's all
suspect
being
it's easier for you to tell me what the.
The building departments and stuff of that nature, but you'd have to all go through them.
This, a lot of this information is in the master budget. I mean, I can share that. I think I shared that in the agenda or the minutes from the first meeting I was at, and all the financials. And I'd be happy to share that with you, what I know right now, and then you could see what you need to know based on that.
Yeah, but I guess the question is, there's a lot of things that they pay for to maintain the system, like they're paying for chemicals for treatment and all these other things. And often that just is one number that says DPW is this. And I was just wondering.
I don't think so. I think it's broken down.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, sure.
Are there any other questions for friends from the water department?
Can I ask a question? Sorry.
Okay, yes,
Yeah. So what's the next big project that you guys think you're gonna be doing, or you think needs to happen, or?
Well, at the water plant, Cedar Street will be the next. We're finishing up a pump station at the water plant. We're finishing the installation of some pumps there. Just gotta do some punch list items. Once that's done, for the water plant, the next reservoir, the last reservoir that we're gonna renovate will be Cedar Street. That's a 20 million gallon reservoir. That'll be fully renovated, the reservoir and the pump station. That's the water plant's next project. Water Service Center,
The finishing of the second phase of the northwest loop, which was the transmission main, that actually leaves the water plant, heads west across Door Highway, through the Buick property, there north of Hamilton. Cuts across town, actually, over to DuPont Street, and then it actually runs down DuPont. So they replaced the section from DuPont to Bishop, which is just north of Pasadena. Replace that down to Pasadena. And then they replaced another section of it from just north of Mackin Road down to University. So there's a section in between Pasadena and Concord, actually, that runs down the Iroquois and Seminole, 24-inch steel water main. So they're looking at replacing that section first, which we've had meetings on, it's in the works, and then replacing from Bishop and Pasadena all the way back to the water plant. That's our two main focuses, along with some smaller stuff we have going on, along with some large valve and hydrant capital improvement programs that we're trying to put in place as well. We have approximately a little over 4,000 hydrants in the system. So, along with the water main replacement, though, hydrants are installed as well. Hydrants and valves are installed along with that. That's part of it. And services. So if there are any old services that are still existing, they will be replaced from main to curb.
Yep.
So curb to house is ultimately, after this line replacement program's over, that is ultimately the resident's responsibility.
And when you go through and you do that, you said the 24, I assume, is that the size you're replacing, or was that the size that was originally?
This is the original size. It's actually getting downsized to a 16.
Okay.
But it is plastic, so just because it's downsized, it still has it's called C factor, which is the smoothness inside of it. So the flow is still greater than what
It's got a higher
coming
C
through the 24.
Yeah, so you guys are downsizing as you go and you make this adjustments.
Some areas, yes. But it's just gonna be case by case, depending on where we're at, you know.
And what are the, you said that they're also in terms of next big project, treatment plant activities, what are the activities of the treatment plant, the treatment project?
Pump Station 4 is getting finished up right now. So we had a brand new chemical feed building, that was done. And then we had, the Dorf Reservoir that's right on site, that was refurbished. And then right now, to pump water out of that Dorf Reservoir, we have a pump station right there on site that had some large pumps. So they upgraded them with new, small VFD pumps. And that, as soon as we finish that project up, then we'll allow them to take Cedar Street out to do that.
Got it.
I guess I would just add two more things, unless there's any other questions. One, we are still doing the lead line replacement program. We're kind of done with the lawsuit side of things, but we can still have monies until December 31st. So if you know of anybody that's a resident and that they haven't had their line replaced, I would advise them to take advantage of it while it's free. As I said before, from the curb to the house, that's residents' responsibility. And right now, to replace a line, service line, is anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000. So it's really to their benefit to have the line replaced. The other thing is too that starting October 1st, we will start our fall winterization and maintenance program, flushing and maintenance program for hydrants. So that starts about October 1st and lasts approximately 6 weeks. So it should be through November 15th, pending emergencies that we have, that may take up some of the time, so could extend. So if you see hydrants out there, see water running down the road, that's what most of that's going to be.
Will there be, oh, one second.
I have a question. So do you have a list of houses that still have that service line, that lead line that needs to be changed?
I have a whole list of declinations that people have refused. We have a lot of people that have refused that some of them may or may not be copper, but there are a lot that have refused, so they don't even know what they have.
I know, Faith, you've been working on outreach around the declinations.
Yeah, we did several hundred that we did outreach to. We made some referrals. It's different than the requirements under the NRDC settlement. So that required people to go to the door a certain number of times. So we've been trying to call people, reach them in a different way. You know, a lot of people won't answer the door for various reasons. So, and that outreach has been somewhat successful. We've been trying to be more targeted, just going on to trying to do outreach to the residential properties that have a known lead line. So I'm working on a list right now and trying to get the contact information for what we have in our accounts. And then I have a community health worker intern that's going to start, and that would be her project. So, you know, found a way to try to provide a little additional outreach and, you know, maybe try to contact people in different ways than they've been contacted in the past, because I think one of the biggest issues is that people move around. So we might have a declination from 2019. There's a completely different owner or resident at this time. So, you know, it's a challenge.
Faith, sorry, go ahead, Gina.
Just like, do we know why, has it been documented on why they are declining?
That was my question. Yeah. Are you still?
So part of the NRDC settlement was that every property had to be excavated regardless of what was known about the line composition. So the main reason that people declined was that they didn't believe that there was a lead line. Some people were there when the house was built. They know what it was. They don't want their lawn torn up for no reason. So I've been communicating now with Paul so that, you know, before we make the referral, we can check with the internal records to see what we know. And if we don't know anything, then to go ahead and move forward with the excavation if the person's consenting. But we have had some successes, you know, some landlords that were difficult to reach. We've gotten in touch with some of those. So, you know, we've been trying really hard. It's that extra effort.
If you have any problems on the northwest side, is there still lines over there that anyone knows of that they having a problem? In the northwest side.
We have them all over. I mean, I have about 1,900, I think, declinations, so variation of addresses throughout the city. And I don't have the list with me to be able to pinpoint, but there's a lot. They're kind of scattered.
Yeah, we did a heat map of the 644 that I originally got if you wanted to look at it, but it's basically people declined where people live. That's, you know, there wasn't really any correlation by geography. That's why we did the heat map. It was, you know, and the other reason some people declined, the main reason was they didn't think there was lead. Some people didn't want their lawn torn up or had very specific issues about their situation, but a lot of people didn't know. They weren't aware. They, you know, had moved in since the people came through. So it's important to reach out to these people and not give up.
I guess I had the number wrong, so the declinations were what they said around 700, but there was a lot of non-response. That was a larger number. I think that was more upwards of the 1,900. But they did the outreach, people didn't respond.
I don't know who administers it, but there's FlintPipeMap.org. I don't know if it's a GIS.
That was created by the guys behind Blue Conduit. Yeah, they're going all over the country now doing this stuff in other communities. But I know they've had a real hard time getting up to date data, and that map has, to my knowledge, not been updated in a while. I know Faith is. So
I've been working with them to try to update the map, and the barrier right now is we don't have an unlimited license for the database that holds the work data, and it's not connected to the water account database necessarily, so there's some discrepancy. So I would say an issue with data management and data integration. And internally, we don't have anyone that can run the report through that database, so we would have to subcontract. And they're talking about extending the license for the database that holds the data that could update that map. So if that happens, we could increase our internal capacity to be able to use that data to do things like that.
How many lead service line equivalents in dollars do you have? You said you still have money, but I don't know if you have enough for all 700 just not in the thinking. Do you have a sense of how many you could replace with the money you have available now? Because I'm wondering if that's, you don't want to leave money on the table.
No, and that's the whole purpose, is that's why I'm telling you, advising, if you know people that have not had their lines replaced, you know, get them replaced. Now when we have money, there's still some available money, so we're looking to try to use all that, you know, obviously it's there for a reason, so we want to utilize and spend all the money that we have. Now, as far as dollar amount side, I don't know, but, and get into the dollar side of that, and more as far as the numbers and doing the outreach and trying to, you know, get people to understand that, take advantage of this right now, because it's.
My concern is, should, you know, I think the outreach should happen. If more people come, then you have money now, then there's another issue that comes up.
We're not having that issue.
I
I understand what you're saying, yes, but.
I just have one last, or my question, how does that affect the rest of the residents, those who do still have those lead lines and the water situation, how does that affect the rest of the residents with incoming out from, how does that affect the rest of the residents?
Somebody else's line shouldn't affect you. Kind of just like with the hydrant thing. If you ever see, like when we're flushing hydrants in the fall, if you drive by, if you stick around long enough, you know, you see the water's kind of discolored, maybe orange for a minute, depends on how long if the water main runs here and the hydrant, the lead tees off and comes here, depends on how long that lead is, all that water's setting there. You know, until that hydrant gets used, so you're flushing all that out, and so your residential line is kind of the same. You know, that water's setting there, or whatever they're using, that's going that way, that's not moving with the flow this way. And
So
then
if
even,
someone lived on Parkway and then DuPont, and so it wouldn't affect those who live on Parkway, or maybe those who live on DuPont?
somebody else's line should not affect your water.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's where my home is, Parkway and Pearson Road, and that's my community. Yeah, it's our water, it went out Brown when they did it down my street, and I took pictures of that. You know, that's why I was thinking, is it more in the water than just lead? Cause it looked real foul, you know, I'm thinking, with all the people that live there, and I've been there for over 20 years. It's like they had physical problems, especially the older homeowners. And remember, when the Flint River water started, they told us to boil the water first. Then they say they're gonna flush out the pipes, you know, all of that, and then all of it came down to removing the pipes. But the illnesses in my area, you know, they were, that's why I got here at the end, I'm so sorry, I had to go for 3 different tests, but when you guys be flushing, do y'all be testing for toxins or anything when y'all do that water to check in that area? Cause right now they're doing construction, Consumers Powers is over there digging holes in the ground over there. When they came out to take my pipe, I reported, you know, how they, and then I didn't really see what the pipe looked like, you know, what it looked like. And they did come out and they did take a while to fix our alarm, but my husband was crazy was over about his pipe alarm, but now we can't take care of it, we have to get someone else. But it is kind of like testing, you know, should still be tested, because some,
Well,
wouldn't that still be in the lines?
we do test, and that's what Scott does, they have samples, and he would speak more on that, but, as far as we go, whenever we do a main break, obviously, we have to isolate the area that we're doing the break, so you have dogs on the road, just like you do in your house. So we have to isolate that area, so when you start exercising the dogs that may not have been exercised in a while, there's crud buildup in there from all the treatment scale that builds up inside the main. You look inside of it, you'd be like, oh, I can't believe water comes through that.
Yeah, cause I can
To
see
be
where
honest
it
with you,
was
but
channeled.
these, all this is, so when you do that, and when you isolate the water like that, you're disrupting the flow. It's always settling in the bottom of the main and stuff, so when you isolate that, shut it down, we do our repair. Typically, there's a hydrant and they're shut down, so we directly flush from one end to the other, and we purge all that stuff. And that's why we do that, to get all that stuff out of the system, so that when we get it back up and running for it, we open up the other end, and then it's good enough for you to drink at that time. But we do pull samples after every main break that we do, and we turn them into the plant, have them, they set for 24 hours, and they do the testing on it to make sure that everything's good in that area. And that's routine sampling is what it falls under, and that's what we do, every main break that we do.
A really good practice after a main break would be to clean your aerators. Because some of that particulate can come from the main into your yard, up your service line, and right to your aerator in your faucet. Usually you can just unscrew the aerator, and you'll look, and sometimes there'll be a lot of metal particulate on it.
Yeah, I've been there, because when we use the filter, we still not drinking water, but we use it for bathing and everything, so we still showering, and the shower water comes right, you know.
If your filter is NSF, 5342, which is like the pure ones that they're handing out,
Pure, yeah.
that will catch some particulate, but it's designed to have like below 5 parts per billion.
But,
So if you're filtering it, it should be catching some of those big particulates.
did you say there's a filter in the shower?
No, we.
Okay,
It's
good, good.
You can get,
Good.
you can
Yeah, I
get.
know those are different filters though, so I
Yeah.
think we just need to be really clear
Yeah.
about that, yeah.
So a filter too is different than the aerator. The aerator would be on an unfiltered, so you usually take the aerator off to put the filter on. So the aerator will be on an unfiltered faucet, and you can look there like usually in your bathroom, and sometimes there'll be a lot of particulate there that can, when it stagnates, have a little bit of lead. You use the water, that's why you always flush the lines prior.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you know that we're working in the area, the best thing to do, once you see that we're gone, or you see us flushing hydrants, I wouldn't use the water till we're actually gone. But flush your cold water only. That way you don't, if you do draw in any sediment for any reason, it doesn't get in your hot water tank. So you wanna flush everything through your cold water, because otherwise you get that sediment in your hot water, then, that's where you start having an issue. You already get that sediment built up in your water tanks anyway, so.
On that issue of the annual maintenance routine and the flushing and so forth, I mean, one of the things that I've seen repeatedly is that when people are driving around town and seeing those hydrants spewing out, brown water, that can really shake somebody's confidence in the quality of their water. And so I feel like there's a big kind of, at the very least, PR problem around, here where, every time this happens, it's just kind of a new opportunity for people to become concerned about the integrity of the system. And I don't think that this message about why it's being done and how it's being done and why the water looks like that and so forth has really gotten out and sunk in. And so I'm wondering, what the strategy is going to be this time around, and this might be something that we can work on in a longer term way, is to figure out how to communicate those messages in a way that people can understand.
Get into the radio station, get in the
Well,
newspaper.
so to answer your question on that, yes, we do, we are, some people don't get it, I guess. I'm not really quite sure, I've been here almost 30 years, I've been doing it since I've been here, so I'm kind of shocked that some people don't realize what we're doing this time of year. But ever since this water crisis, we have, and we do PR, it's on the news, it's a across the radio. I think the mayor started doing it on his broadcast, so it's out there. Not everybody hears it, or, you know, there's still a lot of negativity out there, and I totally understand, I get it, but we've taken a lot of strides to help people understand, but I get a lot of that.
Yeah,
You know, the phones come out, and as soon as they see that, it's Facebook, and then, you know, we're the worst people in the world, and all that stuff.
Are you hiding something?
You know, so, but for me, I guess I would say for your own self,
Not you.
if you're unsure of your water quality, have it tested. Don't listen to somebody else, you know, my neighbor's water, no, you listen to your residents, you have your house tested, you know, your.
How much is this testing running?
Free.
It's
We
free.
will come to your house and test your water for free. As long as you're a city of Flint resident, if you live in the city of Flint, we will test it.
Okay.
That kinda helps take away some of that negativity that's spread around. You know, certain circumstances, and it's just like when, you know, we're talking about flushing. You're flushing out a hydrant that may have not been used in 6 months, or it may not have been used since last fall, since we flushed it last. Some hydrants, if you're in a high fire area, and that hydrant gets used all the time, well, you probably have dirty water as a result of that, because of all the disruption in the flow, from them hooking their hoses up and fighting fires. That creates dirty water, just like the kids turning out of hydrants in the neighborhood, down full bore with the boards and the tires out there having fun in the summer, that creates disruption in the flow. That creates dirty water, so anytime that you get any dirty water, you know, call them. We have an emergency line at night, and then we call our office during the day, and then I'm telling you, we do answer the phone. Hear what anybody says, I have the phone for 3 years, and I answer that every call, and now I have it rotating between my foreman, and we log and document every phone call, so I do know the calls are getting answered. I do follow up with the guys, and I sometimes we get calls with them.
Okay, but do you actually drink the water?
Yes, I
Do you
do.
drink it from the faucet?
Yes, I do.
And you live in Flint?
I work in the city.
Do you live in?
I used to. My son used to.
I would always filter the water, that's my personal preference.
But do you drink the filtered water?
I have a reverse osmosis filter, but the NSF, 4253 is down to 5 parts per billion. The only, like, as far as nonprofit health base, it's like around 3 for infants. So unless, I would recommend, reverse osmosis if you really want good water quality. Well,
Did you have a hand? Sorry, I didn't
When
mean to interrupt.
they're talking about notification of the maintenance, you know, people know me, know I'm on the line all the time trying to find out what's going on in the city. And I do see the city make announcements, and, I'm thinking the most often I see those announcements, they come through the Flint Police Operations page. And that may be because I'm not on enough page at a time. God knows I'm trying. And there was something that you were saying just before going after you speak, you recall. Cause it clicked with me.
About filtering? He was talking
Well,
about-
I filter what water I use. But I'm among the residents that are not confident in water. And so I know what it was.
So
What effect did the reverse osmosis have on your consumption?
some of it ends up being a little bit of wastewater, but the reason that I advocate for reverse.
Well, I'm asking effects on consumption as far as, you know, your typical bill is for a month, or and it changed, or your typical bill is
Just because it's like, what is it, 100 square, just cause if you go from one unit to the next. it
I
costs for water.
understand the billing process. I used to work for the water system in Florida. My request is, I'm assuming you're living in Flint, you install reverse osmosis following the crisis. How has that affected your typical consumption from before?
It might be a unit, but to me, it's, you know, if it's, $800 a month, that's worth it.
Yeah, I think it was about 12 with the service charges.
But, at the end of the day, reverse osmosis is good for biologic.
I understand that. I was just, you know, I know it uses more water and
Yeah, I
it
mean,
trees, the,
barely more. I think I use, my bill's usually around a hundred, and then sometimes I'll water the vegetables.
Yeah.
And it's usually always like $99.
yeah, and my consumption is usually under 1 unit a month. Yeah. That's
So-
what
I have a lot of the press releases regarding water maintenance are on the City of Flint's website, and you can go to where like there's like a news feed, and I'm wondering if I mean I know people can sign up for alerts, but I'm wondering now hearing this conversation if there was a new news update, if there was a way we could alert people to that.
And I wonder, yeah, there's some Facebook pages people
I
are on.
don't watch the regional news.
It would just be on the it would be on the City of Flint.
But you're asking people to go to the City of Flint site, navigate the site, sometimes it's easier than others, in order to find out if maybe there's an announcement.
Right, so what I'm wondering is if there's a way we could alert people when an announcement is made, and maybe by topic area. I don't know if that's possible, but I think it could be something I could bring back
Well,
to
what
IT.
The ones I've seen, typically in operations, Flint police operations.
Excuse me. What about the tool that we use for, the boiled alert? That it goes to our, we get a text message and a phone call and an email.
I'm not sure if people would want that for every time we do a press release, because not all of them are urgent. So I'll keep this in mind. I just started thinking about it. It's a good suggestion, though.
I think so now people can decide whether they want just the emergency
Mhm.
notifications or a broader range of updates.
So
maybe
you're
we
saying they
can
could
have
select, like,
That was a request, I know, yeah. Did they do it? I knew that was a request.
Yes, that's been implemented.
Cause I'm wondering, you know, you both say that the water is safe to drink. And so I'm wondering how you can bridge that gap to give people the trust that the water is safe. I live in a newer build, downtown, and we have a water filtration as well. And so from coming to these meetings and, listening to you talk, I feel that the water is safe to drink. My husband is still skeptical.
Sounds like my house.
So I'm just wondering how you can get the community back to trust that the water is, okay, because
That's one of the hardest things.
it is.
We're
It really
facing now
is.
is to get your trust back, you know, when you read this big old thick book to get your license, the first chapter talks about why we do what we do, the health purposes and the health things that we, you know, keep you from catching all the diseases, blah, blah, blah. And then it also says being transparent and don't lose the trust of your community.
Yeah.
Once that is gone, you're busted and
Well,
broke, it's hard to get it.
and it's really hard too with, you know, the trust, the distrust was there. It's really hard to break that. I totally understand that. You know, my son was living in Flint, so he was a little younger at the time. You know, so I totally understand. You know, however, at our facility, I drink the water every day, at least a gallon of water every day out of that fountain. And they're telling me that the water is good, and then when it starts to taste like Bluebell Beach, I'm like, now something's wrong. Although I tried to tell you that a long time before that, but, so I totally get it, but I'm back to drinking the water every day, and out of the same drinking fountain, well, it's new one now, but it's not filtrated, it is tested, but, you know, that, I can only tell you that, and without sampling, we have done a lot of improvements in the system. We have done water main replacement. A lot of big, large valves that we found that were broke that created dead ends in the system. That's what would cause, you know, a buildup of water like that. And when you flushed it, it was dirty. So we've done a lot of improvements, you know, through the water plant, all the millions that they've invested in that, to all the water main valves and all the work that we continue to do out the system. So, you know, every time we're out there, that's just another improvement and maintenance because due to main breaks. But you know, like I said, you have your water sample, so you know that your water's good, and then you could you know, suggest that to other folks as well. You know, it's going to be hard to break the cycle, but one day at a time. You know, and we're all here working hard to try to make it happen. And we've been here for a long time. Scott and myself, we've both been here almost 30 years, so we've lived the dream right along with everybody else. You know, but to try to get everybody back on the same page is gonna take time, for sure. And you always got the naysayers, and then when you see a fire hydrant out there rolling with dirty water out of it, here we go, we just sleep back in time, so.
And I wonder if there's a way to get the news about the flushing out to individuals who have access through Facebook and other kinds of ways of communicating with the community, who aren't gonna look at the city website necessarily, something that helps get them.
And when I go out in the community, I do say that, I say the water is safe to drink, but I'm just one I'm just.
Sorry, I saw Athena's hand first and then Gina and then,
Sorry.
oh, and Larry too, okay.
Just curious how, the Flint Development Water Lab, are you incorporating working in contingent together, or is that a whole separate different?
That's a whole separate entity, that's a private entity. City of Flint has its own state, their own lab that we run, and we're certified to do our testing, and we don't, you know.
That's the word, certified.
Oh, yes, we have to be
Well,
certified.
we are.
We're audited by the Eagle every 3 years, and they go through the lab and everything, yes. Now, we don't like to broadcast, you know what, I'll test your water, I'll test your whole Ward 5, 6, 7, 9, whatever. But what I am saying is, anybody feels, if they don't feel safe drinking your water, call that water plant, and I, or my operations supervisor will come to your house and test your water, do a full workup on your water, and we'll prove to you one way or another whether it's good or bad. I can't tell you in your individual home whether it's good or bad. I can tell you in the main out in the street, it is good, it's rock solid, because we tested 25 sites throughout the city, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday, we test at the plant. We don't have employees go out on the weekend, but Monday through Friday, they're hitting the city all over. You know, and not to mention the real-time monitoring equipment that we have that's sending information back to the lab, that is real-time measuring your pHs and your chlorine levels and all of that, you know. So, you know, I don't want like a whole ward, but you know what, if I got 10 people in, I'll go check all your water, I don't care, you know, it's free.
Okay.
And, you know, if that helps you get to that point, you know, if I come in there and prove that your water's good and safe,
What happens if they test, if it's a bad test?
then we will do whatever it takes to find out why it's bad.
Investigate.
You know, so a part of the lead and copper program is testing all these lead sites. So we're having to go to 60 different sites that we know have lead service lines. And we're pulling samples off them. And we had 3 hits in this last round of testing so far. We're not even done yet. We had 3 hits that were above the action level. Now, 2 of them that I know of had copper lines going in, but regardless. So with that being said, it's a copper line going in, once it goes past the meter, it's really not the city's responsibility to do it. It's a premise plumbing issue. Something within your home that's caused leaching out lead. But we have the drive to say, you know what, we wanna find out what's going on. So, we will research your house. The last house I just did, I did 4 visits, trying to figure out why she had high lead level, she had a copper line coming in her house, she had copper plumbing in her house. She did have a couple small galvanized fittings that were containing the water and her faucet. So after we got the pipes changed out, the faucets changed out, she now tests 100% good with non-detect lead and very, very little copper. So her water's back to being safe. And we didn't have to go that far, but you know what? We have to win your trust back. So if it costs the city a little bit right now, so be it.
Most of the time it's from the premise plumbing, galvanized plumbing can contribute to lead in the water, so can pre-1986 copper lines. They can have leaded solder. So even if you have copper lines and it's pre-1986, then you can have elevated lead in the water.
So there are a few hands, and then I think we should do a time check, because we do have some other guests here. I wanna make sure that we're able to get to our conversation, with them. So Gina, I think, was next, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add, just going back to your question about, how to best, convince the public that the water is safe to drink. And maybe that's something also this, group can go back to reflect on. I recall we had spoke about, coming up with a, different, I don't know, is it like subcommittees or whatnot, and communications are one of them.
Yeah.
Like normally when you have, such a, major issue in the community, normally we would elaborate some type of communication plan, communication strategy, whether it's marketing or however you do it. I don't know if there's ever been a budget allocated to that, or maybe it was just, guess when it was, fixing the pipes or whatnot, but nothing ongoing or whatnot to like really engage the community, or if there's ongoing community engagement specific to the water issues. I'm not for sure if your team is doing something like that, but maybe it's something we need to revisit. Or whatnot, we talked about having visits to the water plant, that was one of the strategies we talked about. So we've discussed it, but I think there's no concrete strategy or plan in place, and I think that's part of the issue as well.
Definitely something to follow up on, make a note of it.
Side attention, I would get it, more like the fact that when there's call, they come up with this like
Larry,
I'll just say quickly, I've followed Scott around town on at least 2 occasions, and they don't play. They follow up on everything, and they don't sleep either, because it's a 24/7 operation. However, I do have some confusion over flushing, because when they say when your water service has been interrupted, how long do you flush? And Eagle is distributing a document that says 30 minutes after you turn on every faucet on the lower level, then you turn the faucets on the upper level and flush for 30 minutes, and even your hose outside is part of that.
30 minutes?
Yes.
This is after what?
After your water service has been interrupted.
Okay.
Or if you move into a house that has had its water shut off. So the question always is flushing under what circumstances? I'm not sure it's always clear.
And how long for each circumstance?
Sean, you had a hand in Faith.
Yeah, I'll just be quick, we kind of passed it, but I think I commend you guys, because you're doing the work that's gonna build trust back. It's unfortunately gonna take a lot of it, so I know it's hard, but with respect to the house that you mentioned, and I think that's a great example of the challenges of finding high lead levels, where you had to basically go into the home and kind of try to figure out where that lead solder joint was, or whether it was a fixture or whatever. Does the city have any program, like you guys are going out and testing, free testing as you mentioned, and you find a high lead, is there additional program or resources that you guys have? And I suspect you guys are just doing that because you care about people and you're trying to do that. Is there another program to hand it off to get that done? To assist people with their problems? Because it could be that they have really bad problems in the whole plumbing house.
So what drives this is we're required to test 60 no lead sites every 6 months. So whether we get a high lead level hit on that testing, or after the crisis, MDHHS kind of said, you know what, we're gonna do some additional testing. So they actually have, I'm not sure how many sites they go to, but they have sites that they test routinely, that they go and test. And some of them, half of them have been sites from them too. And that's how we find out about these.
I get how you find out about what it's
So
questions.
that's what drives it. Now, as far as the resources, Faith might have answers for that.
So we have compiled a list of resources for people who have internal plumbing problems, but of course there are gaps because not everybody is eligible, not everyone wants to take out a loan, so that's something that we're looking at. So I have another master's in public health intern that's looking at possible funding sources to remove lead at tier 2 sites, but the next step would be addressing internal lead, and I think that there are some, for example, community development block grant I believe could be used for something like that possibly, so that might be something to look for in future years, but it's not put in place yet. So we do provide resources, not necessarily complete, not maybe meeting the needs of everybody in every situation. So I'm working now to identify the gaps and finding out where additional funding could be found.
So I'll just close with this. I think that, I suspect that residents would be much more willing to get their water tested and engage in this if they knew that there was something that they could count on to help them solve the problem.
Absolutely.
And particularly, so that's, I think, anyways, that if there's a way, I hate all these, like, you only qualify for these 15 different reasons.
I understand.
Actually, you qualify, but there's 15 different reasons why you wouldn't,
Yeah, these are things that we
Yeah.
we confront every single day at
Yeah,
our
I
job.
get it.
And I wanted to go back to what Athena was saying about working with the Flint Water Lab, because that's a really, it's important that we work with these trusted community partners. And I did create a table for the last, not the most recent water summit, but the one before that. And I did send it to the state, and I was, I put the Flint Water Lab on the table, and I was like, are there objections? And nobody got back to me. So I don't really understand if there's a consensus or something about certification of labs and what they test, and you know what I'm saying, like in terms of endorsing that. I received no response, but I'd be happy to share that table with everyone here if they haven't seen it. It's just all the places where water can be tested, what they test for, where you can find the results, just a table, because I'm a visual learner and I put things in boxes so I can understand them better.
Because I'd like to know what area.
Absolutely, I can share all of that. I have my card too for you if you want it, so.
For 35 years, I want to know what's being happening in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Because the people over there, they show symptoms of more than just lead and stuff in their
Mm-hmm.
bodies,
Yes.
eyelashes falling out,
Yeah.
people who have to go get their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Cause they hit them in the face.
Yeah.
And every day, I don't even like getting in the shower no more. I used to love going in the shower. I had that shower that you massage it. Now I get in there, I'm thinking, what's going on? But like you said, it's getting, I see, but I don't see it in my area. I see
Yeah.
what the work that we do, like I said, but I would have to be vocal, and I'm not, I love, I've always wanted to live in the northwest side of Flint. When I was a kid, my grandparents lived over there off of Industrial and Page and Elizabeth Street over there, and my dad used to take us on the northwest side around Christmas time to see the Christmas decorations, and I seen the homes over there, and I said, one day I'm gonna live over there. I'm gonna get me a house over there. Just like I said, it came true. I had to get married to get it, but.
Yes, I got that, Gina.
No, I was just gonna add, because there's a few times where we were talking about gaps in funding, and for the database, and also for resolving some of the plumbing issues that people have. I do some work on ARPA funds with other cities or whatnot. I just wonder if we thought creatively about some of these funding issues. I know I was just looking at the ARPA plan, for instance, like the database issue, there's a public health budget or whatnot.
They wouldn't even fund our office with ARPA funds. Council wouldn't even pass our office's budget.
But even though it's in the plan?
They
It is in the
refused.
plan.
They refused.
Oh, because there's a budget that says public health office.
Yeah.
It's not in there.
Who's they?
It went up for vote. It was up for vote between like August and I don't know when they dropped it from the budgets.
City council.
City council, yeah, it was many months that they postponed it. So if you're saying who, it depends on which vote, because they voted on it so many times and different people voted different ways.
No, it's
So
interesting because a lot of cities are having issues obligating money, so then we have these very concrete ideas on how the money can be used, effectively.
Yeah.
So
and in terms of the database issue, that there is funding. It's simply a decision that has to be made.
So many issues, we could talk a long time about here, but I want to be respectful of our guests and our agenda, and thank you very much, guys, for being here and entering into this conversation with us. I know not everybody can stay the whole time, so we understand if anybody needs to go. We can stay past 7, as everybody here well knows. We've done it before, we can do it again. But what I'm just looking at what's officially on the agenda here, we were going to hear from Nancy on the school hydration station monitoring. Nancy, I know you have a printout for us. I'm wondering if there's no objection, if we can amend our agenda to put that last, hoping that we will have time to get to it.
bring it back.
And knowing that you can bring it maybe to our next meeting, just so that we can make sure that we can get to our EPA related business.
Yes.
Does anybody object to that proposal?
I second.
Okay, if there's no objection, I'll consider it to be approved by consensus. So, as the folks on the council and others in the room know, for some time now, actually going back to last fall, we've had an offer on the table from EPA Region 5 to make some resources available to us to help with facilitation of our meetings and any other business that we might want to take on as a council. And just to review kind of some of the underlying needs there, we've had a variety of challenges just with coordinating the logistics of our meetings, making sure that all of the necessary emails are being sent out and all of the necessary materials are being posted in a timely fashion. And so there's just some very basic stuff that it's been hard to manage, in part because, Faith is our one person at the city, or well, we now have a couple people from the city who are helping us out, but they're stretched really thin. And I know that, I don't want to speak for anybody, but Faith has said publicly in these meetings in the past that it would be very helpful to have some more help on the logistical side. But there are also possibilities that I think we as a council might want to consider that would also benefit from some facilitation. So for example, we have talked about the possibility of helping to improve our annual water quality reports or consumer confidence reports. And that's something that, that's an issue where we might want to reach out to community members and get a sense of what people already like about those reports and what they'd like to see in those reports and what they're understanding and what they're not understanding. If we had a facilitation team that was helping us with things like polling and surveying of community members, collecting that kind of feedback and information, suggestions, ideas from community members, putting that together in a way that was digestible, that's the kind of thing that might become possible. We could also potentially have more of an online presence, whether that's a Facebook page or our own website or something like that, where we're posting updates and again, also collecting information and ideas. So those are just some of the possibilities I wanted to put out there on the table. And unfortunately, we don't have paper copies of this, and I apologize to those who haven't seen the proposal by email. But everybody on the council at least should have gotten the latest version of the EPA proposal here. We have now talked about this in public meetings at least a couple of times. And last time, actually, I think we got pretty far along in that conversation and probably would have been ready to vote on this, but we didn't have quorum. So we do have quorum tonight. And so I just want to open things up. And Diane, I don't know if you have anything to add to what I've already said, or if you want to remind any folks of any other details that might be worth remembering here.
Yeah, sure. So, and this is a mechanism that EPA uses through our conflict resolution prevention program. It's a resource. I'm a community involvement coordinator with EPA, and I work on other communities in Michigan and Ohio. And this is a resource that I have leveraged a number of times. And what it is just access to assistance, right? And so when this council was being built and kicked off, it just was a natural thing for me to think about because it's been utilized pretty successfully through this contract through other groups like this one. The groups that I usually serve are community advisory groups that are associated with EPA Superfund sites, so it's a little different, but the essence is there. It's the resources, the support, and it's really tailored to what your needs are, and it's also a flexible contract as well. So if we get to using it, and there's some things on there that what was shared with the council members is what we call a technical directive. So this is just the language that we use and basically the scope of work that we give the contractor to say this is what our needs are, and then we put it out to see if there's any takers. So the technical directive is what you all have been spending some time looking at, and kind of like asking good questions about, and I think that's really where we've been. It's just a matter of putting this in, submitting it, and then from there, what the next step would be is, putting it through our existing contract. So what also makes this nice is that we don't have to wait on some contracting things to get started from square one. The contract already exists. We just have this new scope of work that we submit in, and hopefully see who comes forward as options underneath that existing contract.
And so the who would be some kind of private facilitation, contractor that specializes in exactly the kind of stuff we're talking about, the logistics stuff and so forth. So they would be, putting themselves forward for this, and then, a decision would be made if there were multiple options between, contractors. But from that point on, it would be totally up to us as a council to decide what kind of help we needed, wanted. The contractor would not be making any decisions on our behalf that we didn't want them making. All of the decisions are up to us. They would be there to do what we ask of them. And so if that means, I'd really like you to handle the logistics of scheduling the next meeting, that's what they would do. that would probably be something I'd right. Or, if we want them to handle the technical side of putting together some kind of a poll or survey or something like that, potentially that's something they could do. If we ended up with a website of some kind that we needed updated, that's something they could do. If they're not doing it the way we want them to do it, we can tell them to do it differently or to stop doing it at any time. So this doesn't commit us to any particular arrangement with any particular contractor. It puts us into conversation with the contractor about what we're looking for, and that relationship can be reevaluated or broken off completely at any time. Yeah. So just wanted to remind folks of those.
And if under the contracting rules, I'm the contracting, I think there's some questions about that before, like who is directing the contractor. Ultimately, because they're under our contract, I would be doing that, but as a community involvement coordinator, and you can ask all the communities I work with, Wolverine up down in Rockford, Kalamazoo, Midland with the Dow site and the cleanup that's going on there. I'm as a community involvement coordinator, I'm responsive to what communities' needs are. So if we need to change a contract, something's not working out, or we need to redirect the contractor, you tell me what needs to be done, I'll do it. I have our friends here from our EPA's Environmental Justice Program, Amber and Nathan, and the Environmental Justice Program is behind this and gonna be helping us kind of facilitate this too. So you're not just reliant necessarily on me, we have a team to help make a direction if we need to on EPA side. So I just wanted to kind of provide that nuance that, a formal contract with the government, but I'm working with you to get your needs met, and in the best way possible, so.
And yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Great, no, thank you for that explanation. So if and when this is approved, how long will the procurement process take to select?
It's typically pretty fast, because again, that contract's already in place. We're in an interesting spot right now. We're heading into a new fiscal year and potential furlough and shutdown, so that could impact timing. Let's pretend all those factors weren't at play. I've been able to put these contracts in about like a couple weeks, month and a half, depending on who we get back from the solicitations for contractors. And then of course there's a decision-making period between the group, and a lot of this has been dependent on your all schedule and timelines. So, if we need to come back and have something formal to discuss options, if we're having to wait for another quarter to do that, that's gonna be more of a delay than anything on our end and our contracting folks.
All right, so everybody's looked at the language now a couple of times. Yeah, if you need to.
Can I ask this? I haven't seen the contract, but I have had the opportunity to work with Diane and her team, and they are a phenomenal resource. They've helped the Flint communication group get expertise to the call, so that we can have a better understanding of where we are as a community, we all know the many issues we have in our community, and so they have been a tremendous resource. I wholeheartedly, back Diane and our team, for what it's worth. I just wanted to state that, and I greatly appreciate all that they do, continue to do for our community.
Thanks so much. Yeah, it's great to hear about that experience you know, I just want to remind people as far as the specifics of the language that we did amend this somewhat to make sure that it's clear that, and I'm just going to quote now, all activities are to be carried out in accordance with the Water System Advisory Council and Flint resident priorities. You know, we just want to be really clear and transparent that the council and the residents and the issues they bring to us and so forth, right? That's where the decisions come from, that's where the priorities come from, right? This is EPA is gonna have no control over how this works. We are gonna be the ones controlling how this works once we get the pieces in place. So, is there any further discussion of this proposal? Do people feel like they're ready to vote on this?
I am ready to vote on this, because they've been very clear in communicating that there's flexibility, in this document, and if you look, there's several choices for things, so, and it's pretty extensive, so I would move that we approve, the document and the contract, so we can move.
So we have a motion. Do we have a second to that motion? Okay, it is seconded, so we're ready to vote on that. So, voting on whether or, to accept, this proposal. All in favor, if you would just raise your hands. Is there anybody on, council who is opposed or wishes to abstain? I think that was everybody, all hands went up. Okay, so we have yeses from everybody in the room, so the motion is passed. That was a long time ago. So, I'm really glad that we got that done. So as far as next steps, so Diane, the ball's in your court as far as the next steps, but we should probably touch base at some point about, you know, when a contractor needs to be chosen, you know, whether there's some room for us to chime in on that, when we would need to meet in order to keep things moving forward. I mean, I think that's the name of the game at this point, is keeping things moving forward, and especially in light of the uncertainty. You know, we don't know what the kind of shape the federal government is gonna be in, like, in a year's time here, so, anyway, probably the sooner the better.
If you can give me because I don't know if there's been any other tweaks that are in your guys' copy, so send me the latest version that you have, and then I'll move that one forward with our, contracting folks.
Okay, great. And then once we've actually got a contractor identified, then I think we're gonna wanna meet and talk about possibilities as a group. You know, what all do we want those
And there could
folks
be
to doing?
clarifications, like as I submit this, and then usually what happens is our contracting officer will get the application, and then they might come with me with some questions. If there's things that, you know, I need to bounce someone, if there's a point of contact that maybe I could reach out to if that does come up, that would not be.
Don't wait to bring it to the next one.
Okay, well, that's great. So I do want to be respectful of the fact that it is 7:03. We do have one other agenda item that it would be great to get to, but I do understand if people need to leave, being that we're a little over time here, but.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
To you guys, what's the number that we need to call if someone wants to get their water checked? What's that number?
810-787-6537. The main office, they're able to take all the information down, and she'll leave a note on my computer screen. Sticky notes, yes.
It's 787-6537. Is that correct?
Yes.
The more water people you get to know, the more you'll understand these people are very serious about what they do.
Well, and I think that's been part of the battle is just getting those people and those stories in front of the community and making sure that, you know, people are familiar with who these folks are and what they're doing and what they're trying to do, but maybe don't have the resources to do. Like, I mean, just having a fuller picture of what all of that looks like, I think really helps, humanizes, sort of the way the utility works. So Nancy, we haven't had a mass exodus here,
No.
so I think you should go ahead and give your update if you're willing.
Yeah.
We need to go, okay, we
Yeah,
understand.
Yeah. Let me, I have 15 of these, and I think that's gonna work around the.
Here, I'll pass it out while you go,
Thanks,
so it's
thanks.
like.
I'll hang on to one. So this is what I'm sending
Okay, share
around here is a presentation that Laura Sullivan gave back in the fall of 2022 to the Flint Community Schools Superintendent School Board. And so my goal is just to give you a little information about the work that's been going on in the schools around the hydration stations. The hydration stations, so first of all, Gabrielle.
Yeah,
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but this will not go on.
We're good?
Are we good?
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Just to be clear that the schools do not have lead service lines. And every time that, there are going to be 2 monitoring events, both in 2022. And in the first week of October, there will be another monitoring event. Every time that monitoring occurs, and by the way, the samples that are taken are analyzed by Brighton Analytical, which is a certified lab who's done this work on all the monitoring. There's always a sample taken at the closest faucet to the line coming into the school to just affirm that there is no lead entering into the school. So any lead that is monitored or detected in the school is coming from the building, from the plumbing control. The hydration stations are put in line. There was over 100 of them that the school district bought, but I think there's something like 76 or 78 of them that have been installed. And the thing that's really unique about these hydration stations, so all the hydration stations you see, like here in the library, for instance, will have a filter like the filter you have in your Brita filter. If you put one on your faucet, it's an activated carbon filter. In the school district, because of its kids and the concerns that we've had about the water quality, lead, and beyond, they actually have 2 filters. They also have a membrane filter, not a RO filter. That would be nano filtration, requires higher pressure, but it does have a membrane that has small holes to help keep particulate lead out. It has the activated carbon block, which removes dissolved lead. And then it also has a UV lamp for disinfection. And so it's a very advanced unit. The other thing that's unique about the units in Flint is that when they were installed, the plumber put a sample line on the line going into the hydration station, and then the water bottle filler tells us what the water quality is coming out of the station. So we can actually measure what goes in and what comes out. I don't know of any other hydration station in the United States where we can do that. So the sample set that we have here is really very unique. And what I'm sharing with you is a summary of data from the January 2022, and I want to point out that was after the schools had been closed for quite a while because we're just getting ready to come back in. And so there were samples taken going into the hydration stations and then coming out of the hydration stations. And it shows it per school and the number of hydration stations in each school. What you see is that there's lead in school buildings, and it varies from school to school. And we give you average and max level, and the full data set can be made available if you want that. I want to point the words at the very bottom, which is that everything was non-detect coming out of the schools. So non-detect means below 1 part per billion, below 1. And remember, the regulation is at 15. So these filters work. One thing I want to point out. Then on the second page there was a second sampling done in July of 2022 at the same time as the filters were actually replaced for the first time. And the filters that are used are manufactured by 3M. They're actually not the ones that the manufacturer provided because those were not certified. These are certified by NSF to the standard that was mentioned earlier. And so we wanted another sampling, and you still see that these are grab samples again, so it's just indicating what's going on at that moment. I will tell you that the filter cartridges that were sampled in July were then, some of them were actually dissolved, and the lead measured on the dissolved filter to see how much actually was accumulated on the filter over the months that it received water. And what we see from that information is that, again, the sampling in July, school had been out for a little while, so again, the water had been stagnant. So these are worst case scenarios. And the amount of lead in the filters was, given the amount of water that the unit says how many bottles have been used, we know then the volume that's gone through it, so we can know how much water passed through. The concentrations are actually lower on average if you look at how much actually emitted on the filter, but again, no detects coming out. So we haven't monitored since then. I was concerned about these filters because they have to be replaced every year, and they were replaced in June, so I just want to assure everybody that the plumber went in and replaced all the filters again this past June. There wasn't a sampling done at that time because we didn't know he was going to be replacing them at that time. But the monitoring we're going to do in October is just going into the units again and going into the buildings to see if we can identify which locations are consistently high, which means that the school district needs to go in and look at what's in the plumbing in that part of the school to stop loading those filters up. But Dr. Sullivan wanted me to share this with you. My role has been as a technical advisor. I'm kind of there to help with the monitoring down. I'm actually going to come up in October and physically help with the sampling this time. That's what I wanted to report. But I think this information's been provided again to the school board a couple times. I think at this point it was written up in one of the newspapers, the local newspapers as well. But I don't know how widely people have realized what hydration stations are doing. The challenge remains, as has been discussed here, trust in those units and actually using them. So.
Can I just ask you to clarify one other thing?
Yeah.
You've talked about the lead results here.
Yeah.
And there was also results done on bacteria coming out.
That's what they've done, yeah.
Briefly on that?
In January, yes. So we only did the bacteria in January, and the UV lab works extremely well because there was nothing coming out of, we got no detects coming out of these units. And all water has bacteria in it, so the analysis done is something called an HPC, and you all run HPCs, and drinking water has it. These are good bacteria. They were even gone from the samples that we measured, but that's what would be expected with a UV lamp. We haven't done them again. It's just a cost issue. We prioritize the lead over the bacteria. And again, it's more for the school district. It's not really kind of research, if you will, but yeah. Anything else you think I should add to that?
No, I just wanted to.
Yeah. Okay.
Some people are concerned about bacteria in the water
Exactly,
for obvious reasons.
yeah.
So.
No, these UV lamps are really effective and really high quality.
I know how yogurt is made, there's bacteria in yogurt.
Yes.
There's always good bacteria and
Yes.
pathogenic or bad
We all
bacteria.
have bacteria in
Yes.
us, yes.
Are we perhaps the only school system in the state where these hydration stations are being used?
With UV lamps?
Yes.
I don't know any others.
It could be the only.
I don't know any
ask
others.
because everybody looks at Flint as the poster child for disaster.
Yes.
And this is an innovation that
Yeah.
Flint did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks to y'all's help.
Thank you.
And Dr. Laura Sullivan, she crosses T's and dots I's.
I have a hydration station in my back of my car right now because when I came here, ALA school, Laura's been working with a STEM teacher, their science teacher, working on a curriculum around water with kids that is linked to trust building. And one of the things that they're trying to do, we have a hydration station that we can take the side off of and the kids can see the filters, they can see the UV lamp, they can see the lines, they can do their own kind of measurements if they want to. And we're building a cart for it back in Ann Arbor, and then we're gonna bring it back up here so that they can roll it around in the different classrooms. So I had to pick it up on the way over here, so I do have one in the back of my car.
So ultimately, we're trying to engage young people so they can take Scott's place, Nancy's
Well, I think.
when he retires.
I think one of the ideas is you have to come at this from multiple directions, and the kids are also part of that process. And answering their questions, it's really not about telling them what it is, it's finding out what are their questions, and then working to those questions. And that's what Laura and Melissa Crocker have been doing. We actually are working with them to turn it into a kind of a curriculum format that other teachers can then implement, so it meets the standards of learning, so we can disseminate hopefully more broadly, kind of like the train the trainer filter use program. So we'll work on that for a little while. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, any other questions for Nancy? I'm just, so do we still really not know where this lead is coming from? I mean, it's so much lead. You'd think you could, you know, there'd be some way of, I mean, I've heard about fixtures being an issue in schools and primarily.
So I can't answer that question. What I will say is that there is some consistency in terms of which units we see it coming in on, and so we know what parts of the buildings are. I will also say that, and then I'll Scott, the average age of a school building in the United States is about 45 years. The average age of a school building in Flint is about 75 years.
There's your answer.
Yeah. Old plumbing.
Between that and with the water prices, everybody's afraid.
Well, and it still has flood though. Yeah, but that's not just the Flint, I mean, that's throughout, I think with Mississippi State and the upper Midwest, we have older school buildings.
Age of the plumbing and lack of water use. So to combat that, we add that ortho, but if you don't have water consumption, enough consumption in the building to bring fresh water in there, you won't bring the orthophosphate to coat the pipes. So that's why the levels are higher during times of stagnation, when long stagnation, that water just sits there and just slowly.
Yeah, and this time when we monitor, the kids are in the building, so this will be our first time monitoring when there is use, and so that'll be helpful and interesting to see, how that varies. And that's just coming in. We're not planning to measure the outside, but we could always change that. I have also those sample bottles in my car right now, so ready to roll.
So the Flint schools are aware of these findings?
This is, they have had all of this, yes.
Can't answer what they're planning on doing about it.
I've been part of those discussions, I'm sorry, but, I think that's, certainly a legitimate question for this council.
Scott alluded to it, and I think at one point President Biden was trying to rebuild schools and other infrastructure. But as long as those things are behind lath and plaster walls, we don't know what we got.
Any other questions?
We're no longer the poster child.
Yeah.
Yeah, the filters work really well.
Well, if there are no further questions or comments, just want to say a big thank you to everybody for being here and being part of this conversation. I think, we ended up not only having great conversation, which is usually the case, but also thankfully being able to make a really big decision too. So feeling good about that personally, and really looking forward to the next meeting, which we will need to get scheduled here. I think it's probably best that we do that by email, since not everybody is here. So I'll be sending out a doodle poll or something like that, and we can try to pin that down. So this is our third meeting of the year. It was decided at a prior meeting, as you'll remember, that we were going to try to meet quarterly, and especially with some big things going into motion here, I think it would be great if we could meet one more time before the end of the year. So I will be reaching out about when would be best to do that, and we can take it from there. But again, thanks to everybody for tonight, and get home safe.
Thank you.